Welcome to the Berks Homes podcast, the business of building homes. I'm Katie. I'm here with my brother Ben. And today, back by popular demand, we are doing a little Q&A. Going to go back and forth and answer some questions.
Let's do it.
Are you ready for me to just fire away?
Yes, let's do it.
We're not even going to talk about Philadelphia sports at all today.
Worst week ever. Yeah.
Just skip to the end.
Sports gear today.
Sorry, everybody. All right, we're going to jump right in. What do you think Berks Homes does better than anyone else?
I think that we provide the most value in every market that we're in.
That was really good.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Okay.
I think
What does that mean to you?
That means when I look at a home that we have listed for sale, either on the website as move-in ready or the price when it's all added up in that specific location and what you get is the best value.
I completely agree. And it's the best value because of all of the work that goes on behind the scenes to make it happen. And that's what I think we're the best at.
Yeah, and we have to be because, and like we talked about last week, I think it was with the land and being the best in any market, being the major league player in a minor league market is more important because I had this conversation actually multiple times because we live in an area that is just inundated with the public builders.
Yeah.
The most valuable land in the area. And I've had this conversation with people about, well, you know, I hate this home that I built with this builder, blah, blah, blah. And I don't even ask the question, why did you buy it then?
Right.
I had a friend who he moved into a community, built a new home with a large public builder. And he said, I read the reviews and I still bought it. And I didn't even ask him why, because I know why, because of the location. Yeah. Right? So you have a captive audience. Now, in our business model, we have to be that best value. Exactly. Know, because it's not always going to be at the corner of, First and Main, best location. So I think that's what we do the best.
Yeah. And major driver for that is the design. Yeah.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like all of what goes behind the scenes to make it happen is making that design as efficient as possible, beating it up all the time and figuring out how we can get the most bang for your buck for everybody who's trying to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a lot of work, but it's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
All right. I'll ask the next one.
Okay.
Well, what's the funniest or strangest thing you've seen happen on a job site? Probably for me, going back to my framing days, it was funny because nobody got hurt, which is usually most of them.
Yeah.
You're like, it's only funny if nobody got hurt.
Yes.
But it could have been really bad. So we were on the second floor, putting up the second floor walls. So nailing them on the second floor deck and, nailing all the studs together. And sometimes when you're nailing walls quickly, the nail gun, trips and shoots a nail, a stray nail flying. Yeah. And I was bent over nailing this wall together with a nail gun. And I heard, you can always hear it because it doesn't go into the wood. So it makes a different sound. And it's like zing. And I was bent over and a nail went flying over me, like right over my back and stuck into a stud of the wall that we just put up behind me. And like it missed me by like less than a foot.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, thanks for that.
I can't even think about that. I can't think about all of the nail gunning that goes on. I can't even be on the site when there's framing because that's all I picture.
Yeah.
Is these nails shooting everywhere.
Yeah.
Which was, I wanted to keep this question in here because even though I didn't witness this funny or strange thing that happened on a job site, I do happen to know that you were actually hit by a nail a few times maybe just once that really counted when you kind of got shot in the hands.
I shot myself in the hand. And it was funny, and I fainted because blood was spurting out everywhere. It was just all over the place.
Well, it's funny to me because you have grown up fainting when you see blood. This is not a once and done occurrence.
I do not like to see
There's blood and you faint.
Yes.
And so picturing exactly this series of events and what happened is actually pretty funny.
So it's actually the identical story because I was nailing a wall together. And
were you good at being a framer? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that wasn't my nail, the first one.
Okay.
That was not me. That was the other guy that went flying over my head. And I hit the top corner and it just like busted the end of the stud and it just went into my hand, which you can see there's a hole there. And it just like...
Big framing guy.
Just gushed blood. This was like literally my second day my second day. I was 15.
They should. Why did they hand that to you?
Because they're Amish.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So, yeah, that was funny.
I didn't think you were going to go back. By the way, from my perspective, you know, that was like, oh, okay. Well, that was a nice, run he had. I can't believe you went back.
6 summers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another one that was kind of funny. I imagine it to be funny. It wasn't funny to me when I fell off a roof onto the porch roof and I slid down, which happens a lot, right?
It's ridiculous.
Because there was like a bunch of sawdust or something and I didn't have the nailer at the bottom yet. And so it was kind of like a slow, like I was only 2 feet away from the edge and my shoes just slipped out. And so like I landed on my hands and like I couldn't grab the edge.
Yeah.
And I just dropped to the porch roof, 6 feet below or whatever. And I just landed on my feet, like perfectly straight up.
So watching it.
Yeah. And I saw a guy at the peak that was like watching me with like big eyes. And I was like, ah. And then I just landed and I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
This is why we have all of the new tie off.
Yeah, that was pre anything. That was pre...
I can't even listen to this.
That was pre-lift, pre-pettibone, where everything was... You had to carry lumber manually, It was a lot different back then. But now, OSHA requires you to tie off and you can't go anywhere.
Right.
But there was a lot of fun. Yeah. How many more of these do you want to... I mean, there was
the other fainting one.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 other fainting ones. And this was, I blame the foreman for this one because it was 100 degrees and we were sheathing a roof in the afternoon after, it was 10-hour days and it was just too hot. And actually another guy had heat exhaustion too, but he didn't go to the hospital like me. And I just started
taking one for the team so everyone could take a break.
I drank a gallon of water in like 4 hours and I, just threw it all up. And then I passed out in the truck.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
And then I had to go to the hospital because I was so dehydrated.
But that's not when you cut your chin.
No. That was another time. That was my other story. So we were carrying a gigantic LVL with joist hangers on it. And those metal joist hangers are extremely sharp. Mm-hmm. And it was like it had rained the night before. Oh. And so everything was really wet and the subfloor was super slippery. And me and this other guy were carrying this. It was probably like a 14-foot beam. Mm-hmm. So you're like waddling along.
Yeah.
And I tripped over a brace.
Oh, yeah.
That was going to a wall. And
because you can't see it.
Yeah. And I just couldn't get my hands out because I didn't want to drop the beam on my feet.
Right.
Or in front of me. So my fingers got pinched and so I went face first into one of the joist hangers and it just sliced my chin and it was like disgusting. Like my problem was I looked in the mirror of the truck.
Oh, jeez.
And I saw like my chin kind of hanging down. And then I did not pass out, but I had to sit down. I got in the truck
You
right
had
away.
a
I was
half
like,
faint.
yeah, I was really thinking about fainting. And then I was like, oh. And then this Amish guy when I saw his eyes, I was like, I'm getting stitches. Because he was like, oh, because they don't get upset about anything.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me like, oh, that's pretty bad.
That's hospital worthy.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So I was like, I'm going.
I think the funniest one for me, for real, that I saw was our mom has a really great habit of seeing everything when she goes on the job site. She can pick apart
flaws.
I mean, anything that needs just a little
that
extra
corner,
help, she's going to see it and say something about it.
Yeah.
And she's a real stickler with weeds.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were at, I don't know, in a community, and she stopped at a spec home and started pulling weeds. And next door was the landscaping guys.
Yeah.
And they hustled over so quickly.
That is so funny.
There's this lady old Mennonite lady in a dress pulling weeds, and they just hustled
over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can only imagine.
I appreciated that.
Yeah.
At least, it was nice that they came over.
It is, and I think that's probably where we get that compulsion. Like when I go out on the job sites, especially a model home, and if I see one weed, I just have to pull it.
See, you can't see anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of funny stuff. I've got a lot of Amish stories, but we'll leave them.
Well, they're probably not listening to this.
Yeah. No, there's just so many. They're just a super interesting culture.
All right. What's the most underrated part of the home building process?
There's so many, but most underrated part is how important it is to coordinate everything prior to drywall. So,
okay. Yeah.
That starts with the foundation, obviously, but everything up to drywall is so important, because that's how the presentation at the end is all affected so much by that.
Yeah.
Once you close it in, right? And, I don't care if you've not built a home, but even if you've remodeled, or you have to plan and think through. So selections are a big deal, but even more so on the job site prior to drywall, getting everything right.
Yeah.
And having gone through it so many times for customers, and then also myself for customers, with them on my own homes, taking pictures, knowing, oh, okay, well, this is where I want to have my TV.
Yeah.
Like planning it all out, that kind of stuff. It's underrated, because that's how you're going to live.
That's exactly right. That's a really good point. Yeah.
So, you could say selections are underrated, but I think it's a known.
I was going to say people.
Properly rated.
Yeah, that's probably rated exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
But it's one of my favorite parts, so I'll give you underrated on that.
What do you think?
I think probably the most underrated is the amount and importance of handoffs. Because there's so many people working on the home. There isn't just one person that is there from beginning to end, even from point of sale through warranty. There is a handoff multiple times at every point. And so I think that having the right information and conveying it and documenting things properly and being prepared to hand it off to the next person is so underrated. I don't think we talk about that enough.
Let's stay on that for 1 second. So we can bring it all the way back to land. Something that we work very hard on now, the land acquisition piece. When I say land acquisition, I'm not just talking about making the deal, shaking their hand and saying this is what we agree to buy for this price. I'm talking about intake, right? So receiving a lot, and
that is finished to what those agreed upon terms were.
Yeah. So there's making sure it's done. That's just, part of the obvious. But then it's like there's an education piece on every lot, not just a community, but every unique individual lot, that there's a certain amount of people that have to know all those quirks and what's special or difficult about that lot.
Yeah, like you said, it's that going back to that theme of this is setting the stage for how you're going to live.
Right.
So each of those unique aspects
Right.
that start even with the lot play into that.
Right.
Like if you can put a fence there or a shed or have a pool or nothing.
Right. So just pick any lot, right?
Mhm.
So there's the HOA restrictions, rules, and regulations that you just talked about. Those are all relevant to those things.
Mhm.
Can you put a fence
Mhm.
like anywhere? Are
Yeah.
you allowed?
Yeah.
Are you allowed a shed?
Mhm.
Are you allowed a pool?
Mhm.
Those are usually big things.
Yeah.
What else can you or can you not do?
Because even if the HOA restrictions allow you to do those things, you might not be able to do it on that specific lot in
Right.
the community because
So,
of some of the stuff.
Yeah. So there's many restrictions with stormwater,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of our communities are set up in such a way where you have community stormwater with basins and infiltration pits and stuff. And on top of it, you're also required to infiltrate the roof water.
Mhm.
So you have your downspouts going underground into an additional pit
Mhm.
somewhere. And we try to be mindful about that.
Yeah.
So this education process involves the land acquisition team who knows those quirks and nuances,
Mhm.
educating not only the construction team,
Mhm.
but also the salespeople so
Correct.
they can convey that.
Yeah.
So just any lot could have those infiltration pits. It could have multiple easements on it for stormwater pipe that's going across the back of their property into a basin.
Mhm.
And there's an easement there because there's a pipe. So if something, down the road happens to this pipe, they're allowed to go on and fix on their property and fix it.
And that's just one type of easement.
That's one type of easement. There could be gas easements. There could be electric
Access
easements.
easements.
Yeah. There's all these
Mhm.
weird things. That education, ultimately, what matters is the customer understands what they're getting.
Yes.
And then there's grading. This says, oh, okay, I read on the community matrix where we outline all these different scenarios. Okay, it's going to be a walkout lot. So what does that mean? That means in the back of your home, you're going to be able to have a door in the basement that you can walk out onto grade. It's a challenge for our salespeople.
Absolutely.
Right? Because now they've been required to become a little bit more of land experts. Not experts, but knowledge,
Well, we have really helped with that problem when it comes to the options in a home. So we using Oscar, Michelle and Stacy do a fabulous job of setting up all the rules so that if you pick a finished basement and a morning room, you can't pick this finished basement, you have to pick it with the morning room.
Yeah.
Or if you upgrade this, then you've got to pick it with that. And it turns on and off options so that it helps you build the correct, kind of package for that customer in that home. We don't have those rules in place per lot. So they're having to understand what all of those rules and restrictions are per lot before they even put a house on it.
Right.
And that's asking a lot because we don't have a tool to support it. We do in the community matrix as much as you can.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of information in a lot of different places that it requires studying, I should say.
Yeah.
And it's just as important as choosing the correct options because, again, it's about the lifestyle that person wants to live in this home. Can they have it on this piece of property or not?
Right.
That's the same as choosing the right floor plan for them. It's
Yeah.
choosing the right lot and then the right floor plan.
Yeah, what matters.
Yeah.
And that's where savvy salespeople will use all of those tools in their arsenal to basically help a customer find the perfect scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
The right combination. What do you value? Where there's certain people who they just don't care about like a backyard.
Right.
They want a specific type of home that just fits. And they're like, we don't spend time outside. We don't have young kids. None of that matters. So they might be able to take a lot that isn't perfect for hosting parties.
Right.
You know?
Now, that's a unicorn customer right there, because typically they want
Sometimes.
large, flat package.
Large, flat, yeah. That's usually one of the first questions. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, define flat.
There
are flat spots.
Yeah, and you don't want it to be flat.
Yeah. You don't want water to sit.
Exactly.
You know? So anyway, yeah, that is...
that's handoffs.
Handoffs.
And that's the first step, is land to sales. So that's, again, showing like there's so many of them.
Right.
I mean, there's even handoffs from land to land, you know, from acquisition to development.
Yeah.
And then from sales to selections. I mean, it goes on and on. There's just a lot of those.
Yeah. It's great.
Work on some tools for that. Now I have an idea.
We always have ideas.
Yeah.
All right. What's the biggest misconception people have about working with family?
That it's hard.
That it has to be hard.
That it has to be hard. That's a better way to say it.
Right.
Because it's a choice of whether you want to make it difficult or not.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you know your family, or typically you know your family better than anyone else in the world. And so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
And you know what are triggers, what works, what doesn't. So it's your choice to make it difficult or not.
I think so. Yeah. It does seem really obvious, but for those that don't think that's obvious, what would you say? What are the keys to making it successful once you've making that once you've making that choice? Once you've made that choice.
I think once you choose, okay, I want to do this and I want it to be as easy as possible. I think playing to each other's strengths and giving grace and accommodation. You know, like I said, what you're getting into. So don't try to change them.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
That's why I think you can make it easy. I think that's where a lot of conflict comes in, is if you're trying to change people.
Yeah.
You know, and they're, you know,
they are who they are.
They are who they are. And if you support their great aspects of their contributions and let the other stuff go and find other ways to support some of the inefficiencies and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think one of the interesting things in our family dynamic with you, myself, and Dad, we're so much alike that it is interesting that we get along so well. We're different enough, though.
Yeah.
That I think that balances how alike we are. You know, it's hard to explain, but some of the different personality traits that we each have, they balance how similar our outlook is.
Right.
You know, you could say that there's a blind spot in our optimism.
Yeah.
You know, we're not cynical. The three of us we just are not cynical.
Right.
You know, and that doesn't mean that we don't have those personalities in our family. They're just not in the business.
Right.
Right.
Well, maybe that's part of it too, is choose the family members you work with wisely.
Yeah.
That's probably the key to everything. It's not about family or not. It's choosing who you're going to partner with on anything.
Yeah.
And making that correct choice.
Right.
And I think if you make that choice correctly, it's easier.
Right. But the one advantage to working with family is I know how you were raised.
Yeah.
I know your value system, and there's something about that extreme history, like going back to literally your first memories, that's an advantage. Like,
it's
I know
such a shortcut.
I know I would be shocked if you made certain decisions a different way than I expected.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to quantify that, but the most important thing in any partnership, regardless of family, is that you share the same values.
Yes.
You care ultimately about the most important things equally.
You choose what the most important things are together.
Yeah. You're like,
yeah.
If there's this decision and it's A or B, and it's something like your values, like you should be 100% confident
Yeah.
in the other person's answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really difficult
Yeah.
to have with partners
Mm-hmm.
that aren't family, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You're guessing a little bit.
Right.
Unless you've known them your whole life or something.
But still, you're making assumptions too.
You are making assumptions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's probably the biggest misconception that people have.
What's one thing that always surprises people about our industry?
That we don't work on the job sites.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, so that is something that I've talked to people about, where we have, let's just call it 150 plus employees at any given time, and we don't build the houses.
Right.
Physically.
Yeah. And that's what surprises people about our industry. We aren't, anomalies in this. We aren't alone. This is the industry. Production home building. If you work for a production home builder, you're most likely never touching the house.
Right. I should say this. You could almost say it this way. If you come into contact with any construction company that does any kind of scale, so you're basically just eliminating the remodelers who physically do everything on a job. Every other construction company out there, they subcontract everything.
Yeah.
For the most part. Do you know how many people we would have to employ on our payroll?
Oh, that's a great question.
That would be a really interesting exercise.
Yeah.
So if we had to accomplish what we do in a given year,
how many
geographically,
right? How many crews we would need for every trade? That would be a very interesting exercise.
Yeah.
And purchasing team would be exponential because of ordering all the supplies.
I just got really
stressed out.
Thank
you, subcontractors.
Yes.
To everyone who builds the homes.
Right. So that's the interesting part, is we are entering into new contracts on a somewhat daily basis with new trade partners, suppliers all over the state of Pennsylvania. And there's a valuable enough proposition that we're saying, we hope that you're profitable. You can pay your employees and make a good profit to have a nice living, and we're still willing to do it because it would be like insurmountable to get all this work done without having that ability.
Hiring hundreds of people a year.
There's a few things that vertical integration makes sense for in our business. There's just very few things. The only things you really, really want to control, so like our real estate company, our title company. Outside of that, there's just few things that you want to bring in-house because it's just a lot of work.
Yeah. But again, very surprising to people when you try to explain it, because if they ask what you do, you say, I'm in home building.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, can we go out back and I can show you my patio?
Yeah.
I need some help. No, I'm not the guy.
Call a mason. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I may have a guy to call.
But most likely not, because we're in production and the people we work with typically are just in new construction homes. We don't even have, a lot of access to.
Huge misperception.
Yeah. That's the second one.
It wouldn't take me but 2 minutes to scroll in my text messages to the most recent time somebody's asked me,
hey,
if
do you
I
know a guy?
And I'm just going to put it out there for people that are listening.
Let's hear it.
I get that question a lot, and it's highly stressful to me. It's very stressful because I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what the job is. I don't know.
First of all, I don't know a guy.
If I probably do, but I don't know if I want to share them.
Fair.
Also.
That's a good point.
And then being in the position of kind of wielding an unusual amount of power in that relationship.
Oh, yeah.
If I would give it,
they'll be obligated.
then my subcontractor would feel like I have to do this.
Yes.
And then they would call me and they would be like, do you want a referral fee? And I'm like, no. Is this even something you'd want to do? And he's like,
have to.
And then he's lying.
Oh,
just
very stressful.
Very stressful for me. So if I just don't get back to you, it's because I'm just all jammed up inside trying to figure out how to help you, really. I genuinely want to help, but
That's very kind of you. I was giving you an out by saying you don't know, Guy, but this is more realistic about what's
really
actually
is.
happening.
This is like
Yeah.
an internal battle, and
Yeah.
I'm not one that really cares about like honesty's easy in most situations,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just because I really want to help
Yeah, I know.
that
Mm-hmm.
I get all jammed up. But yeah, my phone is full of those,
Mm-hmm.
and if I don't respond right away, it's because I just don't know how.
There you go. This was
So,
a perfect opportunity for you to put that out there.
I feel better. Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self advice at the start of your career, what would you say? So, some context. You've shared your story about being late
Yeah,
one time to a company meeting,
in front of everyone.
and you thought Dad was going to murder you. How
He
old
should
were you?
have.
Like 23 or
Yep.
something? Yeah. So, that answer's not on the table.
Yeah.
To be on time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a foregone conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
I would definitely go back and say, calm down. You do not need to learn everything in a day.
Mm.
Have some patience with yourself as you're learning.
Yeah.
It's okay to take a long time to learn things
Right.
when you're just starting. I think the biggest mistakes I've made is trying to do things before I knew enough,
Yeah.
because then I'm making the wrong decisions, going down a path that is, a waste of time, derailing time and resources, because I didn't take the time to truly understand what I was doing
Right.
before I took action.
Yeah. Nobody's asking you to be an expert.
That was my biggest issue, is that I thought I had to be the expert
Right.
of everything the day I walked in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you really think about the ability to, just by osmosis, just by being around.
Yes.
You and I, we all hopefully learn something daily.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are fundamental construction things that I learn still about the homes that we're building.
Oh, absolutely.
And, because we're always making changes and, means and methods and products. And I'm always learning that and trying to calibrate, because I always have like something from 25 years ago when I was on the job sites all those years.
Yeah.
And that's not how we build now.
Right.
And so there's new things, and I still have to ask sometimes. And I'm like, excuse me, I feel like a real dummy here. But how do we do this?
Yeah.
And it's just a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah.
So that is good. That's really good advice, because you probably would just give yourself more patience.
Yeah, it is. It really is patience. I wish that I didn't. I mean, I struggled with that up until the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I probably still always will to some extent. It's an instinct of mine to push a little too hard.
Yeah. 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 You just need to give yourself grace. And the cool thing is now, like I said, you know a lot more than you think you know. Yeah, just by being around the industry so long, you just absorb things. And even if you're not on the job site every day, you know what's going on, and you know when you see something, what it's supposed to look like.
Right. Well, I think that that's part of it too, is just accepting the fact that you'll never be an expert until you've lived it long enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't learn it.
Right.
Except through longevity.
That is the wonderful blessing of just being around.
Getting old and slowing down, realizing these things.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being around, just hanging around.
What about you?
For me, I would say it's like two things, but they go hand in hand. It's taking good notes and planning. Yeah. Something that, and I think this is like more of an age thing or experience. As you get older, you learn to, when I was younger, I had a kind of almost like a photographic memory with numbers and things. And there is absolutely a limit to the information that you can and should keep in your brain
Mm-hmm.
that's like current at the top.
Yeah.
And I think I realized at some point that there's just things that need to be out of your head and on paper, or in
Yes.
whatever electronic note-taking system that you're using as a millennial. I'm still paper, but I think it's planning and note-taking.
That's
so
really good.
Note-taking is the basis for planning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just throw in a third that goes right along with it, is planning like a daily or a weekly workflow. So note-taking gives you these observations that you obviously want for later.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your notes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Plan your next step, or plan your to-do or your tomorrow or next week. I know that for me, when I have a Friday afternoon and I always do kind of like a quick mental recap of my week, the ones that were really good are ones that went according to how I dictated it.
Yeah.
And you don't always have that in your career. You don't have the ability to always dictate your week, right?
Right.
Sometimes
you're given your week
in certain positions that your week is provided to you.
Yeah.
And I understand that can be different, but you can also plan on how you're going to receive that work for the week as well, being prepared to accomplish. So keeping your mind clear and ready to, hit the ground running. That would be huge for me, because it's taken me years of trying to practice that habit to get good at keeping notes.
Yeah. I'm definitely much better at the planning than the notes still.
Yeah. I think the notes, to me, again, I'm weird. We've talked about how weird my brain is. The notes give you that ability to plan.
So you say.
Yeah.
That's you.
So
actually, you're probably right, and I'm just,
for
don't want to lock in during meetings and take notes.
Was that all the questions?
That was all the questions.
So what are you thinking of planning? What are you excited about right now over the next couple weeks?
A lot of stuff. We're making some really great progress with app dev. Speaking of planning, a lot of plans in play right now, figuring out how to create the best tools possible.
Yeah.
Best in the biz tools.
Right.
So I'm really excited about all of the conversations we're having around the build sphere world. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great. It's all coming together at once, it seems like.
The planning is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Layering on top of each other.
What did you have something in mind?
I'm just excited right now about some of the tools that we're putting in place on the land acquisition side.
Yeah.
To get organized and have a future focus on lot acquisition and greater visibility in like the status of things, and just some increased communication around strategy.
Yeah.
How we're looking at things, where we're looking, giving our land acquisition team more information and tools to do their job, make new relationships. And, obviously we have some new projects coming up that I'm super interested in seeing what the market's like. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff on the land acquisition side right now.
Yeah.
And obviously it's, we're in the home stretch, the fourth quarter.
Yes.
So I'm interested to see how the sales team brings us home on a bunch of our, goals.
They can make it happen.
Yeah.
If anybody can.
I have a shout out.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So I was just thinking about that with the land team. I'm going to shout out Jaslyn. So she is in charge of our new community startup. And we've talked about this with, every project's unique and special and weird in its own right.
Yeah.
And somebody has to take those handoffs that we talked about and organize them so the audience is there.
Yes.
To receive the information. And it all comes down to timing and swift communication and making sure things are getting done. And, when we give the green light on a project where we have it under agreement and we say we're exiting due diligence, that can be a little bit of a stressful time
Yeah.
for everybody because you're basically trying to eliminate risk in the project the whole way through. And she's a big part of that. And
pulling together a lot of information to be sure.
And to be frank, she wasn't hired to do that.
Correct.
So her role changed, and she's done a wonderful job of adapting. And talk about learning. She's not from the industry, and now she has a really good grasp on the process.
Yes.
And
That's
it's
impressive.
It's impressive to be able to be hired for a role and then be shifted into a different one and seamlessly navigate that while being really productive.
Exactly.
So,
and I don't know how she does it, because extra shout out to her because she answers the door too. I don't know how she can get as much as accomplished as she does with getting up, greeting people with a smile on her face, and facilitating all of that. Secondary shout out for Tanika too, because I know she also does that a lot.
They tag team that.
But still, I mean, that I always look at that and go, oh my gosh, that's right. You're doing that too.
Right.
Thank you.
And being friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have a smile on my face if I was working on a community startup and somebody walked in the door.
Yeah, you hear the bell and then you have to get up and smile. And I'd be like, yes,
but
I'm here for a settlement. You're like, oh, yeah, welcome. Yeah.
No, that's a great shout out.
Yeah. So,
good job, Jocelyn.
All right. Good stuff.
That's it.
That's it.
Thanks.
That's all we got. Have a good week.